welcome to Soul Symbols. My name is Shelley. I'm a writer, an astrologer, and a card reader, and I'd like to welcome you to my channel. Happy Tuesday. It is How to Tarot Tuesday, and what that is every week we go over one of the 78 card tarot. The first half of the video we talk about the meaning and the symbolism in the card. And what I do is I pick 3 tarot decks. The first deck is always the Rider-Waite-Smith, and the other 2 decks I pick based on the imagery in the cards. I choose 2 decks that I think best represent the card in question, the one that we're discussing. And then after the first half of the video, once we've talked about this symbolism, the second half of the video is where you, the viewer, get to choose from one of those 3 tarot decks, and we go ahead and do a quick spread to see how the card manifests in your life currently. I always clarify using a oracle deck, and today we are going to be using the Archetype cards by Myss. So if you ever want to skip the how-to part, you are welcome to. There are timestamps listed in the description box. If you click on the Pick a Deck link, that will take you straight to the part of the video where you choose your deck, and then you can go ahead and click on the timestamp for your reading. So you do not have to check out the How to Tarot part if you don't want to. That is completely optional. But it's always just so it's educational, where if you feel like I post a second reading, which is a weekly energy card reading, and either that, or if you're watching other card readers here on YouTube, sometimes a certain card's energy will be very prevalent. It'll be very strong in a read, and what you can do is you can visit the How to Tarot to just kind of get more information about what the meaning of the card is. But today we're going to jump right in, and actually I was kind of looking forward to this card. Whenever I always say that I have a little bit of what I call an audition for my card decks. The first deck is always Rider-Waite-Smith, but sometimes there's a little bit of a competition for the other 2 decks. But with the 7 of Cups, I've known for a long time, I've known for like ever, that these 2 decks, that the 2 other decks that we have today were the ones that I was going to use as an illustration of this card's meaning. So I'm really excited to jump in and get started. So when you look at these 7 of Cups, what you see is the silhouette of a person. So it's kind of like this outline of a person, and he's looking up at the clouds, right? And on the clouds there are 7 cups, and in each of the cups there's a different image, right? In one cup you see the face of a person. They look almost ghost-like. And then the other cup you see somebody with a drape over them, right? Like a mystery person or something. Then you see one with a snake in it and a dragon in it. And then you see laurel leaves, which is like victory, or you see the people wear it when they're in a victory parade, right? And then you see something that looks like gold and jewels, and then you see something that looks like a castle, right? And there's a very blue sky in the background, but the clouds just kind of look a little gray and a little, like the ether. And the person, they have their hand thrown out as if they're mesmerized by the different cups, right? They don't know which cup to choose. They're not sure which one they should go with. They're kind of looking at each of the cups and discerning which cup to choose. So first and foremost, the first meaning of the 7 of Cups is having, anytime a card reader sees this in a spread, it's about having options, right? It's about having options. This person is clearly in their head. They're kind of looking at the different cups, but, saying, oh, okay, I could go with this one, or look at that one, I could go with that one. And it's interesting because a few of these cups are a little bit, mysterious, right? There's a few cups that are, have you ever, if you've ever eaten a box of Cracker Jacks, you know how you get that mystery prize, right? So sometimes, the 7 of Cups can be like not knowing what you want, and we'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, a lot of times it's just about, being offered many different alternatives. facing an array of different choices, or, kind of deciding which cup you want to choose. The other thing is that with the real dreamy, the cups represent emotions. Cups are represented by water or emotions. So sometimes it can be that kind of feeling like you have limitless possibilities. Like you're kind of like, which way should I go? I could go. The other thing that I kind of see, and when we get into the second definition of this, it is about having those possibilities where there's no limit to what that cup could offer. Like it is a lot about daydreaming. But it's like looking at an open field, like an endless array of possibility. But the other thing is it's also the number of cups. It is about being able to choose, right? Having a choice between the different options. Now, the second meaning, and when you look at it, because this person does look like, the just their body language, and it's so interesting in this card. You don't even see their face, but you can discern so much by the way that they're standing. It's kind of as if that they're kind of lost in a daydream. And that really plays into the second deck a lot too. This is the Vice Versa Tarot, and by Lo Scarabo. And what's really beautiful is that there's no formal card back. The back of the card means the card in reverse. So when we talk about the Seven of Cups in reverse, we'll talk about that. But what you see here is you see someone, and you see the Seven Cups kind of in a circle, and you see this glowing face, right? And just like the clouds, the Ace of Cups is a hand coming out of a cloud, and here you see Seven Cups up in the sky, right? And this person, you kind of see this person standing in water, and actually when we look at the reversal we'll see why that is. But it's like it's like being waist deep in emotion, right? But he's looking up at the glowing face and being like, ooh, what's this about, what. And same expression, you see that the hand up, the hands up, like, oh wow, look at this. So with it being emotions, and with it having all those clouds, and that kind of, again, that real mesmerized kind of daydreamy, it can be a card that means wishful thinking and fantasy, with the number of cups. And it's interesting, the seven is another one of those odd numbers. Anytime you start, the even numbers really do kind of talk about stability. With the two, you talk about balance between two thoughts, two endeavors. When you look at the four, you think of the four, legs of a table. And when you look at the six, that's like a steady plateau. That's kind of like the kind of a graduation kind of point. But when you look at the seven, you're getting into another uneven kind of element, right? When you look at the Seven of Wands, it's about, defending. It's about being overwhelmed by something. When you look at the Seven of Pentacles, it's about, okay, I've come this far. How much farther do I have to go? So yeah, it's a little bit of about, you're more than halfway through the suit, but it's like unsteady, it's uneven, right? It's in another state, another point of flux, of being in flux. So, and when you see cups, the first one of another meanings we always think of is just kind of daydreaming, like having your head in the clouds, the kind of wishful thinking that kind of leaves you in a place of uncertainty, right? A lot of times, sometimes, this can be if somebody, and when we get into situations, but what if you have it usually means someone who's very daydreamy. Like, maybe it's the person who one day wants to be an astronaut, and the next day wants to be a doctor. So if you see this card next to a child, it can be a real, daydreamy kind of child. But if you see this next to an adult or something like that, most of the time it means that it's someone who's good at daydreaming or creating fantasies in their head. I do also see this as, I refer to this as a little bit of the Walter Mitty. It's a kind of an older reference, but it's someone who, there's a lot of cartoons that reference it, but it's somebody who someone who lives in the real world, but like when he goes into the grocery store, he imagines that he's going into a castle to fight a dragon or something like that. It's like, this person doesn't have their head, doesn't have their feet on the ground. They have their head in the clouds. They're always daydreaming. Now, if you see this card next to like a love card, it can be someone who's daydreaming about you. It can be that you're someone who's having real dreams, like legitimate dreams. Like if you read this in a relationship context, it can be someone who's having either daydreams about you or, dreams in general. The other thing that we get with this is that in a relationship context, especially with these number of cups, sometimes it can be someone who has a choice of many different prospects. And what they're doing is they're kind of thinking, oh, well, if I marry this person, this is the house that we'll buy and this is the car that we'll drive. But if I go with this instead, this is what I could have with this person. And it's like, it's kind of having those imagined futures depending on what you choose. Sometimes this can come up when, if you're choosing between like, oh, okay, should I take this job or should I stay here and continue dating this person? So sometimes it can be a torn, especially if you see this next to maybe like the Two of Swords. Maybe someone's torn between, making one choice or another. It can be getting caught up in illusions, though. Again, a lot of times it's kind of like that. Sometimes you can see this as someone kind of putting somebody on a pedestal, or just imagining too much. Again, that Walter Mitty kind of energy. What it is it's almost like this would be that person who, if you see this next to like a knight card, that would be a big example too. If you see this next to a knight, it could be someone who's just like, oh well, I'm going to start a business and it's gonna be seamless, and I'm going to make $1 million in 1 month. And it's someone who really kind of gets lost in. There's not a whole lot of reality in it. They just keep seeing, again, from all the options, whatever they choose, they imagine it to be the best thing ever. So it's about, kind of getting lost in daydreams and building castles in the air. Sometimes it can be someone kidding themselves about the facts. Because when you get this, when you see this, especially with the second card, you see a glowing face in the sky, but this person is clearly standing in what looks like, a swamp or something. But all he can see is this glowing face in the cups, like, ooh, look at this, So sometimes that can be romanticizing things. If this is somebody who has a lot of romantic prospects, sometimes they could be saying, oh, well, if I choose this is the best person ever because of, because they're this and this and this. The other thing is that sometimes you can romanticize in the sense that you're waiting for your ships to come in. Like you think same kind of premise, like, oh, the moment that this comes in, everything's just going to be perfect. And you're not really thinking so much about the facts. You're just imagining the outcome. The other thing is that sometimes this type of energy can be living really in the future. Like, oh, when I get that promotion, I'll be happy. Or, oh, when I buy that big house, that's when, my ships will have come in, right? That's also where if you see this card in the upright next to maybe like the Three of Wands or the Three of Wands in reverse, it could be someone who's really not rooted in reality, where they're waiting for something that might not come. The other thing that we kind of get with this is that, sometimes it can be lacking focus or commitment. So sometimes it can be it can be that daydreamy energy and like an overwhelmed kind of sense. And this is where we really play into the third card. I went with the Starseeker Tarot by the Van Mystic. And this is a beautiful card. Honestly, the little nuances, the gradient and color and dimension, the lighting really doesn't do it justice, but what you see is you see this, she's in this dark woods, right? And there's 3 cups on either side, and you do see one serpent coming out of one, right? And then, but then there's one glowing cup at the top, right? Sometimes what it can mean is that sometimes it can mean that of that you're kind of overwhelmed, like you don't know what to choose. Like for instance, like if maybe you know maybe you win the lottery and everyone's like, hey, donate to my charity, or hey, invest in this, or hey, you want to buy this, right? Sometimes it can be like that. So it can be and later when we get into a situation sense, it can be that where you just have a lot of options coming at you and you're not really sure what to do. Sometimes it can also, one other thing about the cups being emotions, the other thing is that all of these are potentials, but they're still, all these cups are still floating in the air, right? They're all floating in the air. They're all potentials, but you haven't picked one. You haven't picked one, or you haven't. The other thing is that it's possible that you might be making a decision without even testing or vetting any of these options, right? It's always good to kind of get more information about what you want to do before you go to do it, right? So the last meaning that we get with this is that, sometimes sometimes it can be careful what you wish for, right? Because again, look at those options. You have a snake popping out of one cup, you have a dragon popping out of another. You've got one that's glowing, but it has a sheet over it. Like, okay, what's under that sheet? The other thing is that sometimes, with the gold and jewels, what's the cost of going for that, right? And that's kind of like the same image that you see here. It's kind of like, the other thing is that you see a snake, and if you go back to more biblical kind of stories, in the Garden of Eden, the snake tempted you to, Eve to take a bite of the apple, right? So sometimes it can be like, it can be a warning that you have a lot of options, but be careful what you choose, because one of those cups might not be, it might on the surface seem to be what you want, but then if you go for it, it might be, a complete different agreement. So a lot of times this is kind of a caution to kind of pay attention to the details, or try to, if you are drawn to the one cup, try to test that cup out a little bit, get some more information before you go forward. The other thing that I kind of get with this is that the last definition is falling into dissipation, just meaning that you're overindulging. That it seems like everything's being presented to you in golden chalices, so you're not even bothering. Sometimes this can be a card of you're just letting the options sit there and not really making a choice. You definitely see this in relationship reads. If you see somebody who seems to be stalling when it comes to relationships, maybe someone is dating several people and they see potentials with each one of them, but they don't want to make a choice, or they're comfortable in having the options. You do also see this in the relationship sense with careful what you wish for, because sometimes you might, and the same thing with this card, she has one glowing cup, right? But then she has a snake popping out of another one. What if she chooses the wrong cup, And again, the snake, she seems to be looking at the snake, and she kind of has her finger on her chin, like, which cup do I choose, right? So, the snake might be whispering, hey, pick this cup, but the right cup might be, right there in front of you, right? So I do see this come up in relationship reads where maybe someone, had a lot of options at one time, and then they just, they left somebody on the back burner, didn't give them enough attention, and then eventually that person, walked away, and then they chose, or if this person eventually chooses a different cup, right? Then it's kind of that dissipation, kind of, it's a lot of times this can mean being disorganized in that way, just kind of like letting everything sit or letting everything go, not making a decision, kind of sitting in limbo. Sometimes it can be that you're keeping people waiting, you know, like if you have a lot of obligations. But again, you know, you might be feeling a little overwhelmed. But it can be, you know, eating or drinking or partying in excess if you see the Three of Cups in reverse, you know, because again, you have seven cups all presented at you, and it's kind of like, you know, and again, you know, with that glowingness and just that wide-eyed expression of you just getting everything handed to you on a golden platter, right? But sometimes those times do not last forever, so it can be a little bit of a caution that you might be, you know, again, the other thing is that sometimes it can mean that you're neglecting your health. That comes into play when, you know, because when you, the other thing is when you're picking from so many alternatives, right? When you pick from so many alternatives, you know, and we're all human in the sense that, you know, if you offer somebody green beans and then you on one plate and you offer them, you know, a dessert on the other, you know, which one are you going to choose, right? The other thing that I get with this is, and again, that dissipation where you're not, you're kind of letting things sit. You're not making, you're not. The other thing is you might not be making healthy decisions, right? You might say, what I kind of get from this too is just like, oh well, you know, I'll start the diet tomorrow, right? Or you know, I'm doing okay. I've you know, I'll drink, you know, one more cup of coffee. It's not that much caffeine. Or, you know, I'll have one more glass of wine. I'm fine. You know, I'll start tomorrow. It's kind of like, it is kind of that putting it off, putting it off, putting it off. But, you know, that does caution you that, you know, you can't do that forever. So it is kind of you being kind of tempted towards indulgence that's not, you know, it's not keeping you organized, it's not keeping you disciplined. This is definitely a lack of you know, discipline card. In that same sense, it can be just you being kind of emotionally lazy or procrastinating. You know, you could be scattering your energies. Like again, you have so many options, so you know, you're not really doing any of them, or really not. You know, and again, I get a real strong of the, you have plenty of good things. You know, I always think of that lyric from the song Desperado by the Eagles when he's like, it seems to me some fine things have been laid upon your table, but you only want the ones that you can't get. It is kind of like that. You know, you have a lot of cups being offered at you, but some of those cups are, you know, are not blessings, and a few of them are blessings. But if you ignore that and don't pick that cup, then that's the offer is not going to be there forever. This is a cloud, right? You know, the cloud in the sky can dissipate. But the other thing that it can be is that it can be illusion in the sense of escapism. So it can definitely be an altered state. So just to touch on that a little bit. So if you do have somebody who is smoking something, or doing any type of drugs, sometimes this can be a sign, if it's coming up in a spread, that they're you know, they might be seeing snakes pop out of cups, right? But it's about having visions. Sometimes it can be one specific dream, but a lot of times it's just having so many dreams that you don't know which one to go with, right? The other thing is that when this card comes up, definitely if it's like in some kind of decision context, it's really advising you that you're not in a good, you don't have all the facts. Either that, or, you know, sometimes this card, and actually we're in Mercury retrograde now, this card does come up a lot when Mercury is retrograde, because it just, everything is so blurry. You know, it's not a good time. It's a good thing to straighten out problems from the past with communication. It's not really a good time to start new things. That's another thing, is that in that same vein, you know, that use the scenario. What if it could be that maybe you have a lot of things being thrown at you, and you just you don't know which one to do first. Sometimes it can be psychic impressions, like it can be that dream, like in a more channeling sense. So if you do see this next to like the High Priestess, it can be that someone, it can be an indication that someone's kind of spiritual. But it can also be confusing choices. So if you see this next to a Pentacles card, sometimes it might be cautioning you to look at the fine print of something. Or, you know, it might be a tough decision. We do see this card a little bit, in an addict sense, and I don't mean to trigger anyone, but with this many cups and this many, kind of options, sometimes it can be like a really wild imagination that's kind of brought about from, addiction. It can be yearning or cravings for something. But it can be, if you see this next to the moon, that can be kind of an indicator of like subconscious kind of dreaming. But, the other thing is that sometimes it can just be that, this card does come up a little bit if after you've had heartache or some kind of trauma, if you've had a loss or you see this after death. Sometimes it can be someone who's just so overwhelmed, like this can come up in the spread of someone who's, say somebody has lost somebody and they don't know what to do, right? They don't know what to do next. Do we sell the house and move someplace else? So and so used to handle all the bills, what do I do? It's kind of like that. It's just kind of, it can be the sign of someone who's very, very overwhelmed and is preferring to stay in that state of just, everything being a blur, not being real cognitive or conscious of what's going on. The other thing is that if you do this in a read, it can be somebody who is in the hospital or incapacitated in some way, or it can be a sign of somebody who is not able to make a clear choice, right? Somebody. So in that sense, it can be a sign of dementia or something like that, where somebody is, with that, you might need to go slow or speak slowly or use extra care with this person because they get overwhelmed, with too many choices. The other thing is that you could have a lot of people trying to sell you something or trying to push you to make a decision. But again, this is kind of cautioning you that you would be more confused, or there might be fine print there. So the other thing I do kind of get is I do get a little bit of a salesman mentality, like if, someone's like, oh, well, do you want to buy this car? You want to buy that one? Or look at the features in this one. It's, that sometimes someone can intentionally kind of throw a lot at you to try to get a sale. So you do want to be watchful of that too. The other thing that you get with this might be someone who's a little bit impressionable. Like if you're asking about someone, like maybe your college age student is buying a card for a first time and they go in there alone, right? This might be someone who might not be seasoned or know how to handle the type of options that are being thrown at them, right? They're a little bit more innocent. But when it comes to advice or situations, it definitely means be careful what you wish for. You just might get it. I also kind of get not all that glitters is gold. Not all that glitters is gold, because again, there's a very daydreamy kind of vibe. It's a very fuzzy kind of vignette. So the other thing I get is that not everything is as it seems. So you do want to test out your options before you make a firm decision. The other thing is that, this might be a situation where you have too many options and you might need to narrow it down, or at least wait a little while until you have a clear head. The other thing is that I do see this in a situational sense. There's also another cartoon. I think it's a Looney Tunes cartoon where there's a cat character that goes, "Which way do I go, George? Which way do I go?" And what it is that George, the one character is more of the leader and the other one is more of the follower. But I do see this card come up in times when there are moments in life when the path ahead is not clear, and sometimes that's intentional, right? Sometimes I do believe in the higher power in a universe. I think sometimes the universe might throw a fog your way, because again, you see all this is very foggy. Sometimes they need you, to lean back a little bit and definitely look at surrounding cards, because because the options are too numerous, right? So this can be a sign that you feel lost, right? The other thing that I get with this card a lot is that if you see it next to Pentacles, or if you see it next to like a house card or a family card, sometimes you come to those points in your life where you don't know where to go next. Like, what's the next step? And again, this could be about moving. This could be about the college that you want to go to. And remember, each one of those cups is. There was a great movie that was called Sliding Doors, and it was about it stars Gwyneth Paltrow, but it's about these doors that close on a train. And it's almost like a split timeline, where in one timeline she gets on the train and she has a completely different life, and then in another timeline she misses the train and the sliding door closes before she can catch the train, and her life is completely different, right? I think when you see all those cups, it's almost like that. If I choose one cup, I might have a completely different life. If I choose this other cup, this will take me this way. And what it is it's kind of like, oh my gosh, that's a heavy, heavy decision. And sometimes the universe needs you to kind of, when you come to that fork in the road, it's not just two paths, it's seven. So it can be that, that you might be looking at, oh, you might have been offered a job on the other side of the country, and like, oh gosh, wow, my life would be completely different. Should I pick up and leave? The other thing is the daydreaminess of this is also having big dreams like that, like saying, oh, well, I've always dreamed of being a doctor, and look, I got this acceptance letter for a scholarship. I can do it, right? But it's like imagining how far you would go with each one of those options, but you have so many of them, right? Now, the other thing is that it is, sometimes this can be where wishful thinking is your own worst enemy, because it's keeping you so bogged down. Again, it's that Walter Mitty, like your daydreams, like, oh, if I go be a doctor, I'll be the best doctor ever. Or if I go do this, I'll be a millionaire in a month. It doesn't always work out that way. And sometimes when this pertains to a person, it can be that person. Honestly, when I kind of see this next to a knight card, I usually see it as the young 20s person who tries 20 different career paths. And it's not a bad thing. It's your life. It's a full plate. Do what you want. But sometimes it can be sometimes it can be that child who costs you a lot of money, because one minute they're in college doing one thing, and then they quit college, and then they join Peace Corps and want a ticket to another country. Either that, or they want to live in France and study the language. But it's like they just, with every dream is the biggest, boldest dream ever, but they have so many of them. It keeps you, if you get one choice and follow it steadily, you can make it happen. If you have so many and you think all of them are going to be the best thing ever, it's like you're scattering your energy. So it is definitely, it can be creative people, it can be artists, it can be real imaginative people, it can be somebody who has kind of muddled thinking or scattered thinking. I do also see this as the look, there's a squirrel, and I don't mean that in a mean way. I get this card all the time, and it's cautioning me that I'm having one of those days where I'm easily distracted, where it is. I was focused on the one idea. But I've noticed that the best thing is to sleep on it. When this card comes up, I've always thought, best thing to do is sleep on it. Don't get too far down the path, because until you know for sure that it's one cup, one choice, it's just keeping you in a real muddled thought. Now, when you look at the card in reverse, the first thing that we think of is, okay, you chose a cup, right? When you see a card in the reverse, it means one of two things. It either means that the energy is leaving and finally dissipating, or it means that the confusion is getting even, that the negative of it, that the card is manifesting even more negatively than in the upright. And with this card in particular, the negative, the extreme makes it really really crazy. But we'll get into that in a minute. But usually, when you see the card in reverse, the first thing we think is, okay, the fog is lifting. Either that, or you are eliminating some of the cups. Maybe you're saying, okay, okay, this cup, I know I'm not going to go with that one, and let's rule out this one too, and let's rule out there. Okay, now we're down to three. It is kind of like the fog clearing, where you can actually get a little bit more focused on what you want. Now, the other thing is that sometimes it can be, your persistence is rewarded. Maybe if again you did have a lot being thrown at you, but you tried to take your time to look at each thing, to get to research each one of the options, and then it did bring you to a point. Because sometimes it is not the most obvious thing, right? Sometimes it's not the most obvious thing. Last week I talked to you about how I inherited, a record player from my father, and it's a vintage record player, and I'm looking at having it repaired. But the thing is, it can be pretty expensive to have something repaired, and a lot of times you think, well, why don't you just buy a new one? Well, the new ones are plastic. They're not the same quality as the ones that were made 30 years ago, right? So sometimes, again, what's popping out of that cup might look on the surface like everything you want, but the less obvious cup might be the one that you need. And so that persistence, that, okay, let me cut through the fog, let me get some more facts, let me research it a little bit before I pick that cup. But the other thing that I get is that sometimes in reverse, it can also be that someone realizes that they were kind of sitting in their laurels. The other thing is that it is also, when you see it in reverse, pulling your head out of the clouds, like saying, okay, I'm not, I'm going to get decisive about this. I'm determined. I'm going to pick one decision, or you're going to get clear. If you were real, if you had several options, you're going to let all of the other options know, well, thank you for applying, but we went with the other candidate. The other thing is that, being able to see the forest from the trees, right? You've heard that expression, getting a little lost. The other thing is that it can be a sign that it's a time for action, and that you can just be trying to look at things realistically, right? The other thing that I think of is, I think of a little cautious optimism too, because sometimes we get excited, when you say, oh well, I have this great business idea and it's going to be the greatest thing since sliced bread. But when it takes a lot of time, and it takes a lot of investment, and you have to be really dedicated to it. So to really look at it in a very very clear light, to not romanticize it, to really say, there's a great writer. Oh gosh, I wish I can remember the name, but he talks about how when you're choosing a career, just like a marriage, just like a family, it's every day is not going to be easy, right? And when you get a job that, what he describes it as, it's a little blunt, but he describes it as eating a poop sandwich. And I know that sounds a little crass, but because that is kind of like that, you can have a hobby, something you love to do, but you could have a day where it's just not going right. Like, I like to scrapbook. I have days where the layout's just not gelling, it looks like crap, I have to rip things back up again, the tape is old and dried out and not working. You have those days in every single fat area of your life. You could love your spouse to death, but you have that one day where you're not communicating, one person's upset. You're going to have your bad days. And what you want to choose is, you don't just want that pretty on the surface cup. You want that cup and what he means by poop sandwich when it comes to career is that, choose that job that you like so much, that you are invested in, and would pick the cup that you would be able to do that, even on the worst day, even on the eating a poop sandwich day, like the really bad, even on the worst days. It's almost like your worst days are bearable because you like it that much, right? And you know what it entails. You know that at its worst it can be this and it's still bearable. That's the kind of clear-headedness that you have to have when you're picking a cup, because and you could definitely compare it to buying merchandise too. Like you could compare it to anything. Like, say for instance, you're in the market for a television and you see this big, beautiful, pretty TV, and it's cheap and it's great, and it looks like it has all the bells and whistles. But then you get it home and you realize it looks pretty, but it doesn't have the function. It doesn't have the reliability when you really have to lean on it. You know, but the more expensive, less fancy bells and whistles one would probably be the ones that meet your needs, right? So that's kind of what it means. Whether, I hope that makes sense, whether it's in work or in family, find the person that has the same values as you. Buy the equipment that has the quality. The other thing I always think of too is that when you think about, like, if you've ever bought a car, there are so many bells and whistles, like automated windows, electric windows. All cars have it now. But when the motor breaks, as the car ages, when the motor breaks, it gets really expensive. It can be like $250 to replace a motor just to roll one window up and down. But then you go to when you go to the auto dealer, I knew that I would sometimes take some long trips, so having cruise control was important to me, and having automatic windows was important to me, and having a CD player and auxiliary jack was important to me. And then they're like, well, what about butt warmers? Well, as long as I got a heater, I really don't need my biscuits toasted. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like that. It's kind of like saying, oh, well, they could roll out a car that looks beautiful, but it doesn't have any of the things that you really need, but it has butt warmers. But you don't need butt warmers. You needed everything else, right? So it is kind of like, I hope this makes sense. It's kind of like those kind of choices. You're going to get a lot of surface level kind of pretty, but comparing or doing like a fact check, running the consumer reports, also looking at the repairs, doing the research to see how much will tires be, how much, because that's the other thing. I know I kind of have a dream car, and my niece had a dream car, and it's funny when I look at the reviews for the dream car, I see some pretty scary statistics, like, oh, well, the engine cracked in half, or replacing one tire, they have to take the axle off, so yeah, the tire's only $50, but the labor's $300. It's kind of, again, it's careful what you wish for. But with the second deck, this is what I really love, is that with the Vice Versa Tarot, the back of the deck is the reverse. And this is really wild, because remember on the front of the deck, and this is a little bit of a creepy card, but it really speaks to me. The imagery really gets the point across. Because remember how we said he looked like, on the upright, it looks like he's standing in a swamp, and then he's staring up at what looks like a glowing face and floating cups? When you flip it around, he's standing in a swamp and he's sleepwalking. And this is what's creepy, is that his eyes are open and he has no pupils. That always freaks me out. And you see a castle in the background, right? So the other reversal meaning is that, in the reverse, it can mean the fog is lifting, but the other meaning is sometimes it can mean that the confusion's getting even more extreme, right? So especially with this deck, when I see it, because again, I know it's a little bit of a freaky card, but it can mean that you are really far gone. Like, this guy is sleepwalking, right? He's daydreaming. He is in a haze. He doesn't know which cup to go with. He's just like, it's not even I'm lost, it's the where am I? He's sleeping. He's sleeping, right? So unfortunately, this especially with this deck, this version, this reversal of it would definitely mean more of the extreme of somebody who is really not in a good place. Like, it would be someone who's so lost that they're just not being realistic at all. Someone who's really lost in a daydream. It can mean disillusionment or self-deception. It can be taking drugs to the point that you're really not in touch with reality. It can be bewilderment or it can be a psychological disorder where you really aren't cognizant of where you are. Sometimes it can be a sign of autism or dementia. Um, Sometimes it can sometimes be it can be a sign that you chose the wrong cup, and now you're kind of in the consequence of that, like you're dealing with the crappy deal that you got. Because remember, one of those cups does have a snake in it. Sometimes, sometimes it can be a cycle, like you chase a dream and it falls flat and then you chase it again. Sometimes it can be that, in a relationship sense, it can be, kind of that repetition, that broken record of you doing the same thing over and over again. And in a money sense, it could be that you find yourself in the exact same situation because you made the exact same decisions, by having the blinders on. But a lot of times in the reverse, it usually does mean someone who's a realist. In the extreme, it can be someone who is refusing to see things clearly, or wants to stay in the daydream, right? The other thing it can mean is that sometimes people really like to have a lot of options, or they like to feel like they're in the position of having a lot of choices, but it leaves you at the mercy of the hand that's handing you the cup, right? That's the other thing, is that it may be a little bit of a disillusionment. And sometimes I do see this card come up in the reverse, for those being that being that kind of, especially if you see seven of cups in reverse next to maybe the six of pentacles, someone who's might be stringing you along, because it might be someone who's playing on your disillusion or playing on your daydreaminess. That that it could be, they might be promising you this promotion, promising you this because they know that you're dreaming of it, like, oh, once I get this I'll be great, but they don't have any intention of giving it to you, so they're just, kind of saying, kind of stringing you along because, you're easily, lured into that, right? Or you're confused by it. I do also see it in that same car salesman, not to knock any car salesman. I know quite a few really reputable ones, so I'm not making a judgment about that profession, and I trust my dealership, but sometimes it can be that salesman who gets over on you because, again, you're in an impressionable state. You'll go for the pretty cup, and they want to, it's kind of someone taking advantage of you being in a little bit of a fog. Last but not least, the seven in reverse can be that you did pick a wrong cup relationship wise, and that either that, or sometimes if you see this next to a devil card, or a card that kind of means that you're preoccupied, sometimes it can mean that you have one dream in mind, and it's this person, or it's this dream, and nothing else will satisfy. And sometimes that also can be very unhealthy. That can be, you can be, you could have no addictions, you can drink only water, never do anything adverse. But, if you have it in your head, well, I must have this job, or I must have this house, or I must have this person. And sometimes that can manifest as the seven in reverse because you're obsessing, right? It's gotta be this. And it's almost like an extreme kind of, you're being trapped by your daydreams, right? But in the upright or the reverse, it's a really complex card, and the Seven of Cups really does mean a lot. It's about, having a good daydream. It's about having options. All that glitters is not gold, and which way do I go? And it's definitely a powerful card when you're looking for, a path, or you're advice as to what to do next. But alright guys, so that concludes the how-to part. So we've got the 3 decks. The first deck is the Rider-Waite-Smith with the Sunstone. Second deck is the Vice Versa with the Dalmatian Jasper. Last deck is the Starseeker Tarot with a beautiful Amethyst Quartz. And I was drawn to use this deck, and again, it never fails me. If I'm drawn to use the deck, it's usually the right course of action. But I'm gonna go ahead and use the Archetype cards by Carolyn Myss. Oh wow, that was a card to pull. And what's great about this is that it really does, it gives a kind of, it gives an archetype, and it gives a light attribute and a shadow attribute. And I just felt like, you know, especially with the nuances, with the duality of this card, I thought that would be helpful. So we're going to use those cards to clarify your read. But if you need more time, please pause the video, and I'll see you in a minute. Okay, we're back. I'm going to go ahead and move the other cards up. So first deck, the Seven of Cups, Rider-Waite-Smith. How does the Seven of Cups manifest in your life currently? Okay, the present energy. Oh, wow, guys. And future energy. Please clarify the Empress. Okay, and please give us one. Oh, wow. Oh, gosh, guys. And that really did come out under the pages, so I'm going to keep it there. Wow. Oh my gosh, that's so wild. Oh gosh, guys. Okay, yeah, this is definitely... Now, I do get the sense that you might be a younger person. Either that, or you do kind of just feel like an eternal, like you're a perpetual learner, which is a good thing. That's not a bad thing. But I see in the past that you got the Page of Swords. So definitely, I see in the past that you're definitely good at communicating. Either that, or excuse me, I'm gonna cough. Or you're real good at social media. Maybe you communicate for a living, or you're just... I get the sense that in the past, one of the things that you do is that you get a lot of inspiration from what you see in the media, right? You know, and that could be anywhere. That could be magazines, it could be on newspapers, articles that you read online. But I am definitely getting a little bit, probably more of a social media kind of spin on this. And definitely because we're talking about the Seven of Cups and we have 2 pages here, what I'm sensing here is I'm sensing that you get a lot of different ideas. Like you get a different idea. I am kind of getting the sense, like in the past, you would see something on social media and be like, oh, that's the next new thing. I should go for that, right? And then you would kind of throw your energy into it. And you would throw your energy into it, but then if it didn't quite take off, or what, you know, what I'm also kind of getting is that I'm getting kind of that feeling like it, you know how sometimes like you see, you could even use TikTok as an example. You know, you see these young influencers. They, when TikTok was new, they started doing dance videos, and now all of a sudden they're making millions of dollars, and they're quitting college because, hey, I've got a career now. I don't think that you're thinking to do that, but I'm thinking that you're seeing kind of those trends, like, okay, you know, oh, look at TikTok, that's a thing, let me go try it. And then it doesn't really quite go your way, or I'm getting a strong sense, especially with this much page energy, that it just doesn't really get off the ground. It kind of starts and fizzles. Either that, or you do start doing it for a little while and then you realize it's not quite you. Because remember, we talked about, you know, kind of, and we talked about how you really got to be dedicated to what it is that you choose to do. Otherwise, it's not going to last. You really kind of want to pick that cup that you know is gonna stick around, or something that you know that you'll love to do. So I do get the sense that you kind of maybe you start to do it, and then after a little while it just doesn't fulfill you quite as much. So now you think about the next big thing, right? So, but I do think in the past, like the previous thing that you wanted to do was kind of communications related, and then the current energy here is we've got the Ace of Pentacles and we've got the Page of Cups. So these are beginnings, right? These are all beginnings. So maybe you started off in some kind of, you started looking at something that was more communications related, maybe more writing related, and typing or social media, social media presence kind of related, and that didn't, either that or you got the idea. And then now the Page of Cups is definitely more about sentimental kind of connections. I like to think of it this way with this combination of swords and cups. I like to think of it as being like, um, it's service in a sense that you connect to people's needs, right? And these two pages can be connected, like for instance, you think about all those algorithms that you see on shopping sites. When you look at one thing, the system knows, oh, okay, this person's shopping for such and such. Here, I kind of get a sense that you feel like you would be real good at the type of profession that reaches people on a heart level, and that would be it would be that's what you're deciding to do. Okay, how do I reach people on a heart level, because that would be a great career choice for me. Sometimes that can be, you know it can be those kind of jobs where you listen to people. It could be a job like, you know quite possibly you might have started off in a more social media kind of area, or what's the word I'm looking for, public relations. There you go. You thought that you were going to do more public relations kind of things, and then it's turning more into like a counselor kind of thing. But you just feel fuzzy. It's almost like you don't know which way to go. Which way do we go, George? We talked about that. What's the path? The other thing that I get is that if you do feel like you need to kind of analyze your strengths a little bit, there's great tests that you can take. There are books that talk about, and a lot of those preparing for college books, and not SAT, but just preparing to apply to college. There's Meyer-Briggs kind of tests that you can take where you circle answers. You go through and circle answers, and it'll tell you, okay, your strengths are, you're nurturing and communicative, or you're this type of personality and this type of personality. Your best strengths are this and this and this. Like I thoroughly took one of those tests, and philosophy and social sciences really ranked high. Now, if you don't want it to be as clinical as that, one other thing you can do, and it is also one of those tests as well. In those tests, they give a list of keywords, and what you can do is, if you do like a few printouts, or if you send the test digitally to a bunch of your friends and family members, send it out to older family members, maybe grandparents, parents, your siblings, your friends, and older adults that you trust, maybe even an older adult that you work for. And if you just tell them, hey, can you circle, and there's a list of strengths and there's a list of weaknesses, and there's just a bunch of keywords, like they're caring, they're, thoughtful, they're, this. Ask everyone to circle 5 keywords for 5 strengths and 5 weaknesses, and then look at how they overlap. And it was amazing. I actually asked several friends to do that, and it was funny. I remember very clearly the two keywords that were my strengths, that every single person agreed on. Like, it was the overlapping keyword was caring and thoughtful. You're very caring and thoughtful. But the one negative that did overlap a lot was that I'm too picky. But I've got a Venus in Virgo, so yes, I'm too picky, which I agree. But I'm sorry, back to your read. But that's what I'm kind of seeing here, is that it's almost like you're starting off in one area and you're like, well, I know how to do this, I'm communicative. And then it kind of starts and fizzles, or I'm getting the sense that you lost interest, or there was something about it that just didn't go the long run. So now you have kind of a new interest, and it is something about connecting to people on a heart level. You know, maybe it is counseling related, with this being a young person. But yeah, it's either that, or the other thing that you started was a little bit too much communications for you. Like it was constant, typing, or constant, and then what you have here is you might have an opportunity for something that's a little bit more heart centered, or something a little bit more one on one, with people. And this is an opportunity. The pentacle here really says this might be a job opportunity, but you're kind of like, you're a little bit overwhelmed. The other thing that I get with this being a young person, the Page of Cups is very impressionable. He's really quite innocent. You can see. I think that. One other thing that I kind of get is that maybe you're being offered a job, and you're kind of looking at it like, wow, maybe I should do this, this is going to give me money. But you are in a very impressionable, again, we got two pages here. It might be a little bit impressionable. It might, again, all that glitters is not gold. Now, the thing that I see in the future here, which I think is kind of cool, is that you go from page energy to empress energy, and the root of it is the Four of Cups. I think that I kind of read this one of two ways. If you are a younger person, I think you are going to have a few hits or misses. I think you're going to be testing out those 7 cups the hard way. You're going to go through a few of them by testing them out. I think all 7 will still be there. It's just I do think that it is going to be kind of like you you trying everything, and then after a while, you're just going to get a little bit, it's going to give you a lot of maturity, right? I'm getting a little bit of a school of hard knocks from this, because eventually you will. The other thing is that the Empress is a very nurturing person. So to go from the Page of Cups to going to the Empress, it's like, I think you're going to learn real fast. And it's almost like, you're in the future, you're never gonna be confused by those. Well, I can't say that you won't be overwhelmed by the choice, but it's almost like you're gonna step into your power, where you're not gonna. I do think that what's gonna happen. What I'm really kind of seeing here, guys, and I'm sorry to jump around here, but I think you're very innocent when you go after something, and you are going to go after something. You're going to pick a cup and you're going to go after it, and then I do get a sense that it's going to be a lot of trial and error. A lot of these cups, you're going to figure out what's in the cup by experiencing that cup. You're going to pick up the cup, do it, and then be like, oh God, this is not what I expected. And it's going to give you a lot of maturity. But what I'm kind of getting is, I'm getting that you're the young person in each of these cards. And what I'm sensing is that through your trial and error, you're going to feel like you can't win for losing. You're going to feel like, God, every single cup I try is just... have you ever seen the movie Bedazzled with Brandon Fraser and Elizabeth Hurley. If you get a chance to watch that, it's hysterical. It's a very funny movie. But he makes a deal. He does. Elizabeth Hurley is the devil in the movie, but he makes a deal with her, and he gets so many wishes, right? And this is kind of the vibe I'm getting. And every wish has a catch. Like he's like, well, I want to be famously wealthy, so she turns him into a drug dealer, and and by the end of the wish, he's getting shot at, So I'm not comparing it to that, but it's kind of like that. It's like you trying it out and then realizing, oh gosh, this isn't what this wasn't what I expected. Or you're like, oh, this is a great new job, but it's commission based and you don't sell anything. And you're like, great, that was a month of my time that I wasted. And I think what's going to happen is you're going to go through so many of those trials and errors, and you see how this kid looks a little bit older, right? I think you're going to go through so many of those experiences. Like I do think that you have a very open and innocent nature about you that, when you're offered something, you're like, sure, why not try it? But you are going to get a little worn out. After a certain point, you're going to be like, I picked these 3 cups. These 3 cups were some crap. And then, oh, here comes another cup popping out of a cloud. And you're like, nope, big nope. But you know what I'm seeing here? Is that in the future, a woman, a nurturing woman, is going to offer you a real cup. It's a real cup, and this could be a mom, but it's going to be a real feminine. It's going to be a mature, reliable woman who's going to hand you a legit cup. And I think that it's almost, and remember how we cautioned you about like being in a real clear headspace? Because the 4 of Cups is also a real resistant energy. He has his arms crossed, right? And he's looking at the 3 cups like, nope, I'm not falling for that again. I think in the future, you are going to have a few hard knocks from some of the previous experiences because you were so open and open to the experience in the past. And it's either going to make you real mature, where you know better, you're either going to really feel it out before you accept the cup, or I see that after you've had a few tough experiences, someone's going to come along who's a real mature woman, like a real good person, and they're going to offer you a cup. They're going to offer you some kind of nurturance. It's going to be a real job. It's going to be a real thing. And I think it is kind of telling you that this might be real. It is kind of it's a fluctuating energy. It's because when you had 7 cups, you were quick to grab a cup, but now when you have 1 cup being handed to you, you think that it's going to be a bad deal. And this is almost telling you this new cup might be a good deal. This new cup might actually be the real deal. I'm not getting too much of a relationship vibe from this, but just because cups can represent emotions, this could be relationship in the sense that maybe you've dated a lot, and the cups just, maybe you went out with the cute guy or girl because they were real pretty or handsome and turn out right. They were, they had some kind of flaw or defect, or they weren't into you or something like that. If you are a man watching this, it just means that you have to, man or woman, you have to kiss a few frogs. You have to kiss a few frogs, right? And then you will get the emotional maturity. The other thing I get is that it's almost like, how what energy I get from this is, how when you've been through some tough times, when you've been through some crap, and the moment you say, I'm done, I've learned, I'm done, I'm not falling for that again, that's exactly when the right cup is going to come along, right? Like if it's in dating, when you've been put through the ringer, when you've been, screwed over and lied to and, manipulated, and then finally when you're just like, okay, I've learned my lesson, I picked the wrong cup, the right cup might actually come along. And it's almost like saying the right cup comes along when you're emotionally ready for it. But it's going to turn you, the other thing that I get is that it's going to turn you into the Empress. Like, I think all these experiences are not for naught. They teach us. And the card that you got Seeker. And this flipped out right underneath the Page of Swords, but you got Seeker. And it says, thirst for wisdom and truth wherever they are, and inability to commit to a path once found. So yeah, guys, I'm getting a sense that you're a journeyer, right? The other thing that I get is that when you go into these things, you go into it with an open mind. You go in it, and again, it's that sky's the limit. That's a good energy. It's not a bad energy. It's just it'll take you on an adventure. That's for sure, right? And when you get back from that adventure, you have a lot of wisdom gained um, from real world experience, right? But the other thing that I get here is that you went into all of your experiences, you went into with an open heart, and that does give you some cosmic brownie points. It really does. Those stars in her crown, they were earned one by one, right? So I think that the other thing that I kind of get is that really after all this experience, you're no fool. You're nobody's fool. Um, but the other thing that I kind of get is that I do get a sense that I'm getting this strong feeling like after everything that you've experienced, you did become very emotionally wise. But it's almost like it is, and it never fails. The moment that you are fed up, like sworn off, like I'm not going to do this ever again, that's when the actual, because this is like the Ace of Cups, right? And it's one cup, it's not seven. And you don't know what's in that cup, right? It might be something good. But what you can do is you can rely on your emotional intellect to tell you, not the Empress is she's she's not, the page is the learner and the innocent impressionable child, but the Empress is the mother, the mature feminine, and she nothing fools her, right? She's very open hearted. And but one other thing I am kind of getting is if you are a younger person, you probably really have had a few false and stars. The other thing I'm kind of getting is that you probably felt duped a few times, right? You probably felt like, but the other thing that I kind of get is that you with every single endeavor, you really thought it was going to be the best or the greatest. The other thing I get here is that if you are someone who's trying out different majors, or maybe you started one job in one field and then it didn't work out, so then you quit and then started a new one in a new field and you thought that was going to be the best thing ever. I do sense that you might have a mother here that's looking out for you, making sure that you're okay, through all of these attempts, right? The other thing I kind of get is that you might have a mother figure that's worried about you, because again, the Four of Cups is being a little bit jaded. It's like, gosh, I'm not even going to try anymore. I think you might have a parent who's like, I hope that's just hoping that you don't lose that spark of curiosity. Yes, every opportunity isn't always what it seems on the surface, but it doesn't mean that all of them are bad. And I think some kind of mother figure is kind of watching out for you because you do seem to be discouraged, right? Or you don't have the same open heartedness that you had before, and but it is there's no wasted efforts at all. I know that's easy for me to say, but believe me, I've been down these paths before too. And it's funny, I started reading tarot, and it that seemed like a random thing, and I never thought in a million years that I'd be doing this the way that I'm doing this. And so you never know which cup, that again, what's on the surface might be something that teaches you a lot. So, but wow, guys, that was a good reading. That was positive. And please don't come discouraged. I know, we learn things the hard way, right? All right. So, deck number 2, the Vice Versa Tarot. How does the Seven of Cups manifest in your life? Is everything still powered on? Yes. Okay. So, Seven of Cups. This is a really cool deck. Okay, past energy. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh, wow, guys. Okie dokie. Present energy, please. Oh my gosh. Sorry, I'm not laughing. It's just, okay. Present energy, please. And future energy. Oh gosh, guys, please clarify. Oh my goodness. Just for the record, what I was giggling about is that the seven of swords and the Queen of Swords was trying to pop out, and in conjunction with this, that just speaks a lot. But we'll get into it. Oh. This is really trying to pop out too. Oh gosh, guys. All right. Clearly, disclaimer, just for the record, this is because these are cups, this is the relationship pile. This is the relationship pile. So if you watch the intro, the Vice Versa Tarot does not have a formal card back. The back of the card is seen as the reversal. And what's really interesting is that this imagery is almost a little creepy, but it's so prophetic, is that you see somebody who looks like he's in a swamp, right? But he's up to his waist in water. And then he sees this glowing face and there's cups, right? It's almost like he's following this person and he's going deeper and deeper into the water, right? But when you flip it around, you see the reeds and you see he's like in a nightshirt, right? And it's almost like he's sleepwalking, right? So what I'm getting here, guys, and especially with the Seven of Cups, because remember, it can be about having a lot of options. In the past, you've got the Knight of Wands and the Nine of Cups. And the Knight of Wands, and when they flip, it's like being in the reverse. And the reverse of the Nine of Cups, the upright Nine of Cups, we haven't had a tarot on this yet, we're going to. But the upright is a real smug looking guy looking up with like a smirk. And then you see someone floating with a cornucopia. Again, and can I just tell you, it's like chasing. Doesn't it look like, you know, the floating chick? You can be a man or a woman watching this. Quite honestly, I'm getting the vibe like you might be a woman watching this, and this might be talking about the person that you were dealing with. But again, assign the genders as they resonate. This could totally just be your energy. That's fine. In the past, the Knight of Wands in reverse is, when he's in the upright, he can just be a vivacious person, somebody who goes on it, you know, who likes to go out in the world and live. In the reverse, it can be someone who is just going where their head takes them, if you know what I'm saying. It is someone who's just out for the thrill, just out for the adrenaline. It's an adrenaline, especially with the Seven of Cups being more of kind of an addictive card. It's an adrenaline junkie. And remember, this is, all of my videos are 18 and over, but I try not to get like graphic when it comes to sex. But this person's carrying a flaming rod. So you know what, you can connect the dots. And the Nine of Cups is about being kind of smug. It's like, I'm getting a strong sense that I'm getting a strong sense from this pile, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it because I've got to be real about what these cards are telling me here, is that the other thing about the Knight of Wands is that it's very associated to Jupiter energy, and Jupiter is always about expansion. It's always about more. Give me more. There's always more to be had, right? And what's the Seven of Cups? Look at this. I've got so much. I've got so much coming my way. All of it's at my disposal, right? But what it is that's an illusion. And what I'm seeing in the past is that you were either dealing with somebody, or if this is your energy, where you went after your passion, right? You went after your passion, but it was almost like it was like it. The other thing that I get with this is it's almost like that hit of dopamine, right? Like when you start talking to someone, oh my God, they gave me their number. That's another hit of dopamine. I'm the best, right? But then It's almost like the Nine of Cups in reverse can be like insatiable, right? That's what I'm getting from this, insatiable. Like the other thing I'm seeing is with the lightning strike. It's like that's how fast it is. You know, okay. I'm getting a strong sense that in this, you can be a woman in this energy. Maybe you meet a guy, you like him, and something about the thrill of that connection. So and it's proven the honeymoon period is what releases all the chemicals in your brain, right? When you first start talking to someone, when you walk up to them and they actually if you walk up to someone and they reciprocate, right, they smile back, that's one hit of dopamine, right? Then next is when you give them the number. Oh my God. The other thing is that also what I'm kind of getting here is that the fact that this person's on a ledge and this person's floating in the sky, these prospects really seem unattainable, and that's part of the thrill for you. Like again, it's I also get a sense of like with the lightning strike, it's almost like something about this is crazy. I've got to say it because I'm hearing it. Like the spontaneity of seeing somebody. Like when you see him, if you see somebody cute standing in line at the grocery store or out shopping or something, it's like, hey, oh, lightning strike. Let me walk up and see if I can get those digits, right? Or let me see if I can engage, if I can win. The other thing I kind of get is, again, this person's floating, and again, the cornucopia is abundance, right? And the stars in the sky, it's like the world, right? You've seen the woman in the world, how she floats in the sky, and you see that look, that person, he looks like he's putting his sights on her. But again, you could be a woman in this energy, or this was somebody that you had dealt with. But what I'm getting is, and especially because these cards are in reverse, is that it's almost like you always expect there to be more, but it's a really, really bad cycle, and it's a bad addiction because there isn't always going to be more. If you continue to do this, to have this pattern with people, it can affect your reputation. It can make it where you can't go to that bar anymore because you've hit on everybody there. But the other thing that I get is that it is this, he's chasing after this person has his sights on the floating girl, and he's walking out into the swamp, and she's all smiling like, keep walking, okay, he's already up to his waist. When is he going to get up to his neck or above? When is he going to start drowning in this, right? And so what I'm seeing here is, I'm seeing in the past, again, I'm getting a strong sense it was passion. It was following your physical drives. There's definitely some kind of thrill seeking here, and there's some kind of high. I'm getting an addict kind of thing, like you're addicted to the chase. You're addicted to the thrill of the chase. And you feel like there was always going to be more options. Either that, or you get the number, you start talking, you get through the honeymoon phase. The moment it gets serious, it's not giving you the high it once did. Either that, or I'm also getting the sense that if the more challenging it is, because again, this person's floating, how do I get to them? How do I get their number? How do I get them to like me back? It's like unattainable. But the moment you get it, it gives you that hit. It gives you that there's a word, vindication, validation. It gives you the validation, but it also gives you the feel good chemicals in your brain. But you're doing it. The other thing that I kind of get is, remember we talked about those 7 cups about keeping people in limbo. It's quite possible that you might have had quite a few of those encounters that you got started, and it gave you what you needed, but then you decided, what do I choose? What do I choose? Because I need to choose the one that will constantly give me that validation. But you're dream walking, right? You're dream walking. The other thing that I get here is, so this is past energy. And please don't be mad. I'm not trying to please don't shoot the messenger. That is completely okay. And honestly, the Knight, I've even said this, if you get a chance, watch the How to Tarot on the Knight of Wands. He's not a bad character. He's a very passionate character, and there's something very charismatic in the way that you go out in life and want to experience life, right? There's nothing wrong with that, but I am definitely getting a sense with this combination that I think, and I think that if this is your energy, that you know it, you would know it, you would know that it's almost like you're asking yourself, like, God, why do I have to continue to go out, um, and it's that combination. It's the gamble. Um, but, there is something about, the other thing is that the more sudden it is, the more enthralling it is. It gives you like almost a bigger high. And also, I am seeing that when that person just, they look so darn cute that first time you see them, right? And that also plays into it. And the other thing that I kind of get is that half the reason you don't know what cup to choose is because every single time you see it, and you can be a woman in this energy. It can be that hot guy with the the V shape and the big arms, or what, the other thing is, just like men have certain attractiveness for women, like they have certain features that they like, same thing for women, for men. What if they're just the perfect height, or they've got the eyes that you really like, or they have a really strong jaw and you just go gaga for that, or they smell good, and it's almost like that moment you make eye contact and you look, and they just look like the world to you, right? They look like they're abundant. They look like they have everything that you would ever want. But it's really more of the thrill of talking to them and getting getting them to talk to you. But what I'm kind of sensing is that it puts you into a situation where you have a lot of options, and it's putting you're going in deeper. You're going in deeper. You're wading in further. And you again, you might be talking to 7 people. You're getting in over your head, right? The other thing that I kind of get is half the reason you can't choose a cup is because you're trying to choose who is the person who's going to make you happy forever. But I don't think any of these options are really making you happy forever. I think what was making you quote unquote happy was the endorphins from the spontaneity of meeting the person and looking at them and finding them attractive. The other thing I get is that I don't even think that there's not a whole lot of deep connection with this. I think once it got past the endorphin phase, those were the breaks. Now the present energy is not bad, but what you got is you got the High Priestess, and you got it in reverse. And what that's kind of telling you is that, I think what it's telling you is that the answers, because again, she's looking beyond the veil, right? And this is blue and red. It represents the divine masculine and the divine feminine. It also represents yin and yang energy. Not aggressive. Taking action or receiving, right? But here with the High Priestess being in reverse, also with her being the number 2, it talks about balance, it talks about parallels. The other thing that it does kind of talk about is that it's saying that you're not listening to your intuition. So what's happening is you are getting lost. I think what's happening is this past behavior, that it gives you the high, right? That it gives you the high. So, and then what you do is you say, well, but I'm talking to 7 people. Which one is the one? Why don't I know which one's the one? The High Priestess in the reverse says, what's right for you, but you're not stopping to listen. It's not listening to your intuition. It's not listening to what the advice that's coming from beyond the veil. The other thing is that, I think this is also a caution card where it's saying that you need to just full stop. And remember, we talked about narrow down those options. You do not want to wade in any farther than you already are. You're sleepwalking, right? The other thing is you're mesmerized, right? The other thing is that I'm getting a strong mesmerization. Like you meet the new person and you just get so drawn in but the other thing is that, The other thing, remember when we talked about the seven, is we in the introduction we said that it's choosing not to make a choice, right? Because it's choosing not to make a choice because I'm getting a strong sense that it's almost like you have to ask yourself, you know the truth of this, you know the truth of it. It could quite possibly be that you don't want any of the cups, but you don't want to narrow down any of it, and you don't want to stop the behavior because it would be giving up your drug. I'm sorry, guys. When I get into the cards, I'm going to have to express that. And I'm not knocking it, but it's one of those things with this, especially with this card, and it's almost like you're pushing down that inner voice. You know what this is about. I think you would know which cup, or you would know that what action to take if you discontinue this, or if you listen to your higher. I think if you meditated, or if you just got quiet, because what I'm sensing here is, because we talked about that, about, narrowing down the cups, right? Like, getting a clear head, getting a clear head. But I think you're afraid to do that, because that would mean not having the thrill anymore, right? Not having the, not, because the other thing is, and believe me, I'm not knocking it. When you meet someone, when you fall in love, those endorphins, they even say it, it's like being on crack. It really is. It releases the same endorphins that very powerful drugs do in your brain. So when you start talking to someone, or when you get introduced to someone new, the other thing is, when you first meet that person, what do? You always get all the pie in the sky dreams start playing, like a film reel, like, oh, we're going to get married, and this is what we're going to name our kids, and it's a little bit of a love bomb, and I don't think that anybody does it intentionally. But if you know that if you find yourself in the, definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result, it's kind of like the same thing. If you keep finding yourself in dead end, or either that, or this is where you would know it's not a good thing, is when you're talking to seven people, or you're talking to more than three people that you've had this kind of Zoom beginning with, and you don't know which one is the one. That's when it's danger, Will Robinson. And what it's telling you is that you might not be listening into your intuition, and your intuition would be telling you that it might not be the people, or the relationships that are really what you're making the decision about. It's and that's something, again, you might. The other thing about the seven is, it's caution to wait until you're in a clear mindset, right? So this could very well need to be a little bit of like a detoxing kind of process. And the high priestess, really, she knows, she's the guardian of the veil between three-dimensional life, what you see in your everyday, and the 5D, which is the higher realm of things. And if you're not listening to her, if you're pushing down, because the other thing I get here is that, the other thing that I get is that, you're gonna end up picking. I'm just getting a real fogginess. I'm getting a fogginess, but the other thing is that you see clear skies in front of this high priestess. I think you would see the truth if you wanted to see the truth, but it would mean ruling out some of these cups. It might mean really telling someone, well, I'm sorry, I don't want to talk anymore, or you know, kind of looking the behavior, looking at what that cup is offering. You look it square in the face, and realize what that cup is really offering you. But now moving forward, this is not bad, but I am just gonna caution the two knights, and that's why I'm so strong with this being kind of more love, is that the two knights that relate to love and romance, and the two knights that get the biggest reputation as being a little bit Lothario, are both in the reverse. So honestly, guys, this really screams love bombing. It really does. And it could either mean that you continually to fall for that behavior, or that somehow something about the excitement of new relationships really kind of gives you something, but it results in this overwhelm where you feel like you don't know which one to choose. But what I'm seeing here moving forward, guys, is that you've got the Knight of Cups in reverse. So unfortunately, this can mean someone who's emotionally withdrawn, but the way I'm reading it, because I asked for a clarifier, because we've got some Lothario energy here. I asked for a clarifier, and we got the Two of Wands, and we got the Ace of Cups. So what I'm kind of seeing here, I can read that one of two ways. I can see it as you remaining stuck, or this person you're dealing with remaining stuck in that foggy energy, because the knight is bringing his cup to somebody, right? But when he's in reverse, he's refusing to, or he's not taking his cup to someone. And the root of this is the Two of Wands, which is a choice, and the other is the Ace of Cups. Now, one other thing that's interesting about the Ace of Cups is that on the front, on the back, you see someone standing there, and it looks like a knight, right? So what I'm really getting here, guys, is that you know that you have to make a choice. I kind of read this one of two ways. You might have started a lot of really quick relationships, and you might have a lot of options. You're in limbo. You're not, there is a little bit of an addiction kind of vibe to this. The way that you find yourself in this limbo, you've been here before, and you're getting in deeper, and you need to get out of it, because you do not want to continue in this. This would be a very negative pattern of behavior. Now, the solution to your problem, the clarity, would come from listening to your intuition, and looking at these situations, or whatever brought you to this point, in a very, very honest and blunt light. Like, you have to really shine a light on it. You need to wake up. That's the other thing I'm getting. You gotta wake up. You're gonna end up in the swamp up to your neck, and you don't want to get to the point where you're drowning, right? But what I see in the future is, here I see someone either making a choice with one cup, remember, them choosing. But the way that I read this, and especially with the knight being in the reverse, because the knight in the reverse is just going to be, the Two of Wands is about making plans. He's still in the tower, right? He's still up in the castle. I think in the future, I don't see you making a decision yet. I think that what I'm seeing, and I'm going to be honest about it, is that I see you kind of, I see this energy as a little bit of sweeping it under the rug, just a little bit, where it's going to be like, oh, well, I'm going to plan to make a decision. I'll get to it. I'll pick one cup, right? I'll pick one cup, but I'll get to that, right? I'll get to that. But I think you're going to continue to go on. You're going to continue to go on, because you're going to tell yourself that you haven't found the person that you want to give your cup to. Either that, or what I'm also kind of getting here is that while this knight has, his back turned, and is off doing the same spiel, you might miss out on someone really good, because that's the other thing, is that one of those cups is a good cup. One of those cups, you might feel like you're missing out on some, because the other way I read this is that, this is, the Ace of Cups can be the promise of a really strong new love. And I don't see him looking, he's looking away from that cup, right? He's looking like off in the distance. And it's almost like he's looking at that glowing orb, right? It does. It looks like you're still staring at the orb, right? I do also get, and I'm not knocking you, if this is your energy, what I'm kind of sensing is I think you're almost afraid of missing out. Like you're, again, the seven is about, well, what if there's something better out there, right? But what I'm seeing here is that you might have had the choice of something really good. Um, but again, I do get a little bit of a strong, I do get a little bit of a strong, like, I do think that you might be a little bit reliant on that feeling that new relationships give you. And I think you're not going to want to give that up, even if it means that you miss out on some good people. The other thing I get is that you might be kind of pissing off some people, or really doing some damage with that behavior, because these are both knights and they're in the reverse. And again, these are the two knights that when they're in reverse, they are, I'm going to come out, they're the players. They're the players. He gives his cup to everyone, and he's just after whatever, wherever his stick takes him. So, but it's not knocking it. It's just the reason that you can't pick a cup is because you when it comes to that kind of fogginess, you have to be real honestly. It's almost like you have to snap out of it, right? And if you feel like meeting new people is giving you some kind of high, you have to figure out, okay, how do you deal with that, right? Just like any dependency on anything, like I love coffee. There are times that I know I drink too much caffeine, and weaning it off becomes hard. Same thing. It would be no different. It would be like, okay, well, I know that I kind of the Zoom gives me a hit of endorphins. How do I manage that without hurting anybody, or getting in over your head? But I see that I see that in the future the game plan is going to be like, well, I'm making plans. I'll make a choice. I'll make a choice. There's got to be one cup out there, but it's almost like you're telling yourself, let me go explore some more. I think you are telling yourself something to justify the behavior so you can do it some more. I don't see you making a decision. Either that, or you're going to choose to continue to be single where you have these opportunities for those lightning strikes. But I do see that you might miss out on a good cup, because the Ace of Cups is here, but you're not looking at it. You're looking at the glowing orb of all of your options, right? And remember, there is a snake in one of those. What you're seeing might not, what you think it is, it might not be all that it's cracked up to be. But if you're just in it for the experience, then that's what knights do. They go on missions. But you got two cards, and both of these flipped, and oh my gosh, guys, we got Martyr, learning the transcendent nature of service to oneself or a cause, and addiction to self-pity, and Victim, which prevents you from letting yourself be victimized or victimizing others. And then the shadow attribute is playing the victim for positive feedback in the form of pity, inability to maintain personal boundaries. So what I'm kind of seeing here, guys, is that I really get the sense that sometimes you might get into trouble with relationships. You might end up with a lot of people talking to you, and then you, when it falters or fails because you didn't text them back, or you put them on the back burner, or you went out and you talked to somebody else, then you feel like the victim, or you say, what I'm hearing is, I'm bad at relationships, so I'm just bad at relationships. Because the other thing about victim is playing the victim for positive feedback in the form of pity, inability to maintain personal boundaries. Personal boundaries is not. The other thing is also, with the prevents you from letting yourself be victimized or victimizing others. That's the light attribute. Prevents you from victimizing others. And I'm not saying, I'm not saying that it's not consensual. But when you go out and remember that Seven of Cups is those daydreams, like, and it could be you daydreaming too. The people that you talk to, you might legitimately envision the whole kit and caboodle, but then, um, you know, again, I'm getting a strong sense the other thing with the Seven of Cups, we talked about it too. Oh, well, I'll start the diet tomorrow. Well, I'll do better tomorrow. No, you're not. No, you're not. You're gonna give yourself the excuses. You're gonna give yourself the excuses. You do, if you want to find the one cup. The other thing I think you're telling yourself is, well, I haven't found the one cup yet. You might have. You might have, but I would say what you probably want to do is you want to get past, you want to meet someone without this Zoom dynamic. You may want to, you know, because the other thing about the Seven of Cups is that you have the choice, right? You have the choice. You can make the choice when you're ready. If you get clear about it, and listen to your intuition, the answers are there. The answers will come to you. You know, the other thing that I kind of get with this is this could be more positive in the future as well, where you might also choose not to date anymore, or you may, you know, choose a different path. But with this glowing orb and this being in the reverse, yeah, it really disturbs me, guys, because that Knight is right there with the same cup. I don't see anything changing. I just see that I do think that you feel like a victim a lot of the times. You know, either that or, you know, but it gets you in deep though. You know, you got to ask yourself truly, you know, it is kind of cautioning you to kind of see these interactions for what they are. Because if something is happening over and over again, and if you feel like the martyr, if you feel like the victim, you feel like you're not good at relationships, like you can never choose a cup, it's the way that you would solve that is it's going to take some healing. It's going to take some healing, and it's going to take some really strong, you know, you got to clear the fog, right? You got to clear the fog. But the other thing is you do have the Two of Wands here, and you have the Ace of Cups, so you could make a choice for one person, but with the Knight in reverse, I don't see that happening. You know, maybe it's full stop. You know, maybe you are saying, okay, I'm gonna wait until I can go one-on-one. But that the Knight of Cups is still out there giving his cup to people. So, and he's still going on missions. So, I see that it's almost like a slightly different energy, but not. You're still going to be going out in the world and kind of, you know, creating more opportunities for yourself. But all right, guys, I'm sorry. I hope that didn't come out too harsh. I'm really there's no judgment in this. It's just it's exactly, you know, we've got, you know, if you feel like the it's not resonating, either that, or if you feel like some of the cards were really kind of prominent, you know, please check out the How to Tarot. You know, just because something comes up in reverse doesn't make it a bad card. But all right, so last but not least, we've got the Seven of Cups. Seven of Cups. I'm sorry. All of these are the Seven of Cups. We've got the Starseeker Tarot by the Van Mystic. This is a really great deck. It's just the card quality is so nice. It's a little bit thicker, so I have to kind of end shuffle it. All right. So we've got. Okay. Please clarify. Five of Pentacles. Okay, I'm going to take into consideration what was flipping there, but okay, please, thank you. Oh gosh, guys. We got a lot of moon present energy. Oh, that is the second time we've had Four of Cups. Okay, and future energy. Oh, wow, guys. All right. This is so great. Every single deck has had kind of a different theme. So, you know, the middle deck was more of our relationship theme. This is clearly work. Total work. And this is nice. I like it. I like it. Okay. Let's go ahead and get sure. Ooh, Gambler. Okay. Oh, nice. eyes, guys. Okay. Okay. Oh, this makes a lot of sense. This is really great. This is actually a little money related too. There's a lot of green in it too. All right, so this is actually pretty cut and dry, and it's actually laid. These cards always look so beautiful when we lay them out. But in the past, we've got the Five of Pentacles and we've got the Moon. And we talked about it in the intro, and when you look at the Seven of Cups that you chose, it really does look like the moon, right? It looks like the moon. What I'm seeing here, guys, is that definitely in the past, and this could either be, this could be a recent past or possibly in childhood, we have the Five of Pentacles, and this is really a beautiful card. You see someone leaning against a tree as if they're resting. And then you see, this is a really gorgeous moon. The lighting does not do it justice. All the little, you can see the phases of the moon in the background. But it does. When I see this card, I always think of, if you've ever seen Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, the Walt Disney one, when Snow White gets lost in the woods, she starts screaming and running, and, she's terrified because she's seeing eyes everywhere, and she doesn't realize that it's just the deer and the squirrels looking at her. But what I'm really getting here is that I think in the past, you've either fell on hard times, and if this was a recent past, if you're watching this at the time the video posts, we're still in pandemic world where, where, a lot of financial hardship, a lot of, being able to work or being able to do the same job that you did before. The Five of Pentacles can also be ill health, so sometimes it can be just that, if you're working a job that's essential or, in food service or something like that, something really tough. So what I kind of feel here is that in the not so recent past, you've kind of known an austere time. You've known a time when you didn't have enough financially. You might have, been late on loan payments or mortgage payments, or maybe risked, having electricity turned off or something like that, and it was just very terrifying, right? It's almost like you're Snow White. You're walking through that night, and I'm getting a strong sense of like, how do I get through? Like, you see this woman walking through the woods, right? It's almost like you're following the moon, but it's scary. It's very, very scary. The other thing that I get is that if this past is like further past, like possibly your childhood, it's very proven that when if you've never taken a financial hit in your life, right? Like if you and I'm not knocking anybody when I say this. It's always a great blessing to have the assistance of your family for all of the endeavors in your life. But if you've always had a roof over your head, and then you had college paid for you, you didn't have to work to buy a car, those kind of things, if you've never known the shock of loss, right? And I'm just going to come out and say it. I'll share a little bit with you. I work a day job, and I've been in the same profession for almost 20 years. I started when I was a teenager, and I got up to a very high position in my profession, and then I was invited by another employer to get the same position with them. I went over to them, and over the course of 3 years, they slowly demoted me until I was more than half of my paycheck, like it was not a living wage. And what they were trying to do is they were trying to push me. They kept just cutting me back until I wanted to quit. And it was such a financial blow, because I'm good at what I do, and I'm very blessed. Since then, I got a job with a wonderful employer. I'm not making buckets of money, but I'm happy, and I'm grateful that that I'm working for a company that has the morals that they do. And what it was is that during that time, as I kept getting demoted, and I'm playing this game of, well, we're going to just wait until you quit. It was to this day, I will never, ever work for a company like that again. But going through that, like, having to scrimp and save to pay my car payment, to having to eat, $1 bean burritos every night for a week, you get in, it puts you into a different mind space. It puts you into a completely different mind space where somebody, if you talk to someone who has never had that happen to them, it's not the same. You don't know. You feel lost. You feel like you are just taking one foot in front of the other, and you feel like this. You're curled up against a tree, like, what do I do? This is horrible. Am I gonna make it? So what I'm kind of seeing here is that, in the present energy, is that it's exactly like that. I'm seeing the Seven of Cups and the Four of Cups, which is kind of like, you it's almost like your current energy, your present energy, is you're still walking. I think, in the Bible they talk about, the moments of walking through the valley, like it's the darkest before dawn. That's what I'm getting, guys. It's the darkest before dawn, like right now. And what I'm kind of getting is that you might have a few options right now, but I just feel like you're a little emotionally battle worn. Like, yeah, Three of Swords. You have, and Six of Pentacles. Yeah, I feel like you've suffered, and I'm so sorry, but I feel like you suffered, and now what it is that, how, and believe me, when I was applying, oh, I'm sorry, guys, we're out of focus. When I was applying for new jobs, I was so skeptical. Um, I hate to compare it to this, but I'm going to go ahead and do it because it's really how I felt. Have you ever adopted a dog from the pound? Or if you've ever sheltered or rehabilitated an animal who had been abused? That's what it's kind of like. you know once you go out there and you think, okay, because that's exactly what happened. I put my resume out there, I got a bunch of bites, and I'm going in there like, are you sure you're going to do this? After 1 year, you better do this because I'm not sticking around. It's like you start to, because what I'm seeing here is I'm seeing that it's almost like you're still coming out of this. Like, I feel like I'm hearing darkest before dawn. Like, you really have an opportunity to get out of the dark, but it's almost like you feel a little lost, and you're almost you're remembering back to what didn't work. But there's one glowing cup. There's one glowing cup that's standing above the others. I think you guys have an opportunity to do something, but you're almost afraid. You're afraid of losing what you already have. Like, you barely have enough now. You don't want to risk losing more. But with this one cup standing out amongst the others, um I do think that, yeah, I think it might be one of those situations, guys, where it isn't that you're foggy or that you don't know what to do. You see one option that might be really good, but it's almost like you're afraid, or I am getting flinchy, like you've been through a lot. You don't The other thing I'm kind of getting is you just don't want to go through anymore. Um the other thing that I kind of get is that you almost, um, what I'm also kind of getting is that this might be, and I'll also share with you, when I got my new job, the job that I have now, I've been there for 6 years. When I got the new job, it was really not the position that I was used to, and the position seemed a little bit, not below, and of course that hit the bruise with me because I had been demoted so many times. My dad would have called it being busted down to corporal. But it seemed like such an introductory entry level position. I thought, well, I'm just going to take this job and they're just going to abuse me like the other company, right? You get those, it's like that with the Four of Cups. You remember those past experiences, like, I'm not grabbing that cup, hell no. I've suffered enough. But I'm definitely seeing that, there's opportunities here, but it's almost like you feel lost. Like again, you've been walking the valley for a while now. That this opportunity might be a little bit of a risk for you, and you're not really in a risk taking mood. You don't want to gamble and lose. But the beautiful thing is that there is one cup, and it's a glowing cup, and yes, there's other cups here that have snakes popping out of it, but I think also what this is telling you is that I think your intuition would tell you that this is the right thing to do, because the moon is about being lost. Honestly, these two cards together really do talk about being very fuzzy. Now, there's a little bit of a caution here because, yes, these two cards in particular do say that you might want to get a little bit more information. But you do want to. But what I'm seeing very clearly here is that you have several options as to what you could do. It's almost like you have a few options as to what will lead you out of the darkness, what will lead you out of the woods. That's the other thing, is I'm seeing a lot of woods here, guys. It's like you went into the woods and it's nighttime and you're trying to get out of the woods. But what I'm seeing here is that there's several choices that you can make, and of the choice there's one standing above that's like light, it's lit up like the moon. It's almost like, here's your sign, but it's almost like you're afraid to look at it, or you're a little bit battle worn, or that I think you're refusing to look at it because you don't feel clear, right? You feel lost. The other thing that I'm kind of getting is that maybe the advice is really look at that option, the option that you think is the cup. Just I think it's telling you right now, just investigate it a little bit. It could be. And remember, just like I told you, I started off entry level, and it's a reputable company, and I did move up. And I'm not the top of the food chain, but I'm happy where I am. I enjoy what I do. I think it might be one of those type of opportunities where on the surface, because the other thing about the Seven of Cups is, remember, all those cups look good, that all but don't just go with the glowing, well, here you do actually have a glowing cup. I shouldn't say that, but there might be one of these cups that actually looks like the right choice. And if you just kind of put a little bit of thought into it, it doesn't have to be a blind risk, but maybe you should investigate it a little bit, or just turn to look at it. I do get a sense that you're feeling pretty bruised. The other thing I'm kind of sensing is that you can't afford to lose right now. Like you can't, what I'm hearing is you can't afford to gamble and lose. So if this does feel like a risk, it's almost like you're making, like, maybe your situation was like mine, where you were making no money, and it's like if you leap wrong, you could really, it might be game over. But I do see that one glowing cup looks like an opportunity, but you just feel lost, or you're foggy, right? You're foggy. The other thing it can be is, it could quite honestly be delirium. That's the other thing, is because, again, honestly, when you're not eating right, and when you're hungry, when you're tired, when you're cold, and again, my heart really goes out to this pile. If you're experiencing these things because of world events, I'm so sorry. Because it's hard. It's so freaking hard. The other thing I'm kind of getting with this is a little bit of small business vibes, and actually when we go forward. But your future looks so bright, you gotta wear shades. Um, Gosh, guys, you got the Emperor and you got the King of Pentacles. And what I'm seeing here is that, gosh, guys, this tree looks like the same tree. It looks like you went back to that tree you were leaning against, and you carved it into a throne. So what I'm seeing here is, I kind of get one of two things. Right now, in the past, you felt pretty lost. In the present, you have an opportunity, but you're afraid that it might be a bad investment or a bad risk. If it's a job or something that you can emotionally invest in, it's almost like you're tempted to do it. It's just you don't want to be stupid, and you don't want to be foolish. And I am getting a strong sense of that. I can't gamble and lose. I have a lot writing on this. It's not, because I don't think you would break even. I don't think you came to the table with much, right? Now, the reason I'm using all these gambling analogies is because of your advice card. But in the future, this is really great. I'm seeing that a real CEO kind of guy, like a real father figure kind of guy, this could be one of two things. This is either two people. So one way I read it is if this could be someone who's coming into your life that's really helping you. Like this could be someone who gives you a job, and then what happens is that choice, I think you're going to make the right choice. The other thing about, because this one glowing cup looks like the moon, and the moon is trusting your instincts. It's trusting your instincts, and she's looking at that cup. She's really looking at that cup. And sometimes you do have to go with a gut instinct. But I do think that you're cautious, right? But there is such a thing as a calculated risk. You can take a calculated risk. That's entirely possible. But I do get the sense that either some kind of CEO is really going to give you a job or give you a position. And this is going to give you such security. It's going to give you such security. It's almost like it's going to take you above and beyond where you were. The other thing that I kind of get from this is that it could mean that you meet someone who's a real, like your counterpart. Like this, if you're single, it could mean, and I don't mean this in a weird way, but you know, I do think that you're gonna meet someone who's really he's gonna be like the sun rising, right? And the King of Pentacles is the provider. He's very reliable, very steady. So there's someone that's gonna be there for you. This can be a father figure as well. Maybe your father helps you. But I do get the sense that I do get the sense like this is kind of on your own merit. The other thing I get is if this is your energy, you step up. You step up. You're like, okay, I think what it is that you've had a few hard years. You've had some hard years, and it believe me, I understand. I understand, because when you've had a loss, when you've been knocked down, getting back up again is not easy. And it's hard for people to look at you and say, oh well, you should just try again, when they have never, when you have been taken to your knees, or when you have known that kind of material loss, and you know what it feels like to be cold, to be hungry, to not to you need to, sometimes base needs do come first. You never forget an experience like that. So, but I do see that as you go in the future, I think what this is saying is that you're feeling really lost right now, and I think half the reason you don't want to make a decision, or you don't want to choose a cup, is because you don't want to choose wrong. You don't want to gamble and lose. But I do think that your instincts are correct. And I do think that there's one opportunity present that's really calling to you. That if you trust your gut instinct, if you trust your instinct, it could take you places. And then what I'm seeing here in the future is I see you completely not only bouncing back from this, but becoming the King of freaking Pentacles. And underneath it's the Emperor. So what I'm seeing here is I'm seeing some drive here. I see that this is not going to last long. When the fog clears and you get out of the woods, you're going to go back to that tree and carve a freaking throne out of it. you're going to come back to your place of discontent and be like, you know what? Let's make that a chair. Maybe that's what you do too. Maybe you make furniture. I don't know. But I do get the sense that it's either meeting a King of Pentacles who's really your divine counterpart. So it's quite possible that you meet someone that you might marry or come in union with, and that you have the security of a partnership, the security of having that person there for you. Or it could be a father figure that's really going to take care of you while this is happening. In the future, you're gonna find stability. But if this is your energy, you're totally pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. You get a plan, and you follow that plan, and it's gonna make you this person is so grounded. The future is going to be so grounded. The other thing that I kind of get is that I do think that some of this past has taught you well. Like, you know, when you've had a financial hardship, the first thing that you learn how to do is how to save money, like squirrel away money. So that's always a good thing, you know, how to you know, make sure that you have a nest egg. And it's almost like it's really going to put you in your power, you know. But moving forward, the other thing that I kind of get is that if this is some kind of investment thing, like maybe you've been on hard times, and again, also if this is small business related, it's possible that you might have, got busted down to zero, and then you needed to get out of the woods a little bit, and then you are going to eventually bounce back and be stronger than what you were, whether that's investment wise or with your business. Lastly, we got the Gambler card, and it says willingness to follow intuition even when others doubt you. Oh my gosh, guys. There you go. And then relying on luck rather than hard work. But I don't see that in this read. None of these two men are the absolute pinnacle of hard work, and they're both in the upright. So I think you're a very industrious person. So I'm going with the Gambler, light attributes for this read. But willingness to follow your intuition. You know what I'm also getting, guys, here is that if you are watching this and this pertains to current energy, this has been a really craptastic year. Everybody's really financially impacted in stocks and bonds and other investments. You know how they always, when you see it going down because of major impacts, they always say write it out, right? Write it out. Either that, or maybe there is something that's a little bit of a gamble, right? That might not pay off, but you know it, that you think God, once things get better, this service or this thing is going to be what the world needs. That's what it's telling you. And if you follow that intuition, but the I am getting a strong sense that you're hesitant or you're cautious because you again, the other thing that I get is the moon is about a lot of subconscious kind of grist, right? If you've failed in the past, it makes you fearful of trying something, even though it could work out well. But this is amazing, guys. It's funny, I normally wouldn't see Gambler along next to the King of Pentacles, but the Emperor, the Emperor is a strategic person, and he's always in control. He always has a plan, right? And I see yourself pulling yourself out of whatever, you're going to get out of the woods. You're going to get out of the woods, and it's going to be because of your own instinct and your hard work. But wow, guys. Oh, wow. I knew this was going to be a strong card. The How to Tarots do usually run a little longer than the regular reads, but I thank you so much for joining me. I'm really quite in awe because now we are officially halfway through the cup suit, and the cups are the last suit of the How to Tarot. So we are going to be wrapping up this series probably sometime around the beginning of April, and then that's going to be it. You won't see these videos on Tuesday anymore, but I sincerely hope that you're enjoying them. If you like the content of my channel, I would be very honored if you would like, comment, or subscribe. It really helps me out. The other thing is that if you see other readings, whether on my channel or other readers, there's so many great readers here on YouTube. If you see a card or one of the tarot cards that's really standing out as a strong theme, please feel free to check out the other How to Tarots. They give a lot of insight on how to read the energy, especially if it's occurring, in a current state. But I hope that you have a great week. If you're so inclined, please join me on Saturday for the next weekly energy card reading, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye.